you're going to get a little bit of this coolness going on here. And we are live everywhere. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And we are coming to you live in 2 places tonight. We are going live to Crowdcast. We're also going live over to YouTube. And of course, we're going not live to the podcast arena. Not necessarily dead. I don't think it's that grim necessarily.
No, we're still alive. We're living strong.
We're still alive. We're still out there. We're raring to go. But if you are over on Crowdcast, drop your questions and ask a question. We're going to get to them later in the show. If you're over on YouTube, say hello, leave us a comment, give us a little bit of the old thumbs uppy there. We love that stuff. But I'm very excited about this show that we have tonight. We have 2
very fun
amazing guests for you guys. But first, before we get into that, Justin, I believe we actually have a sponsor this week.
We do have a sponsor. That is right. Justin, JT Sizzle coming at you with the ad reads. Today, we're sponsored by Lion Dandelion Tea, which is a refreshing and restorative tea. It's a detox for your liver. And I'll tell you what, I know that for a fact because this is my wife's dandelion tea company. You can find
you drink a lot. So you would know.
Yeah, you got to detox it.
Tell me more about this tea.
Yeah, she started this because she was like, man, Justin drinks a lot of, I'm drinking some Pete's white wine right now. We have a ton of this around our house. She runs the marketing for this company and has done so for quite some time. But we legit drink a lot of this tea, especially my eldest daughter, whose birthday it is today.
Happy birthday, Madigan.
Happy birthday, Madigan. She drinks a lot of the tea?
Yes, in a way,
does she drink a lot?
Well, we're trying to, it's healthy if you just detox the liver.
Sure.
This stuff is great for your skin. It's a powerful de-bloater. And I mean, we're in quarantine. We're feeling bloated all the time, aren't we, guys?
Sure are.
Just a quick question. Was that part of the script? We're feeling bloated all the time?
No, just the de-bloater part was, but I added a little bit.
Okay. I wasn't sure if the tea company was trying to push the people are bloated all the time.
No, I'm pushing that. Okay. But one thing they do want to say is that it cures a quarantine hangover, but it's also a great mixer with alcohol, and I can attest to that as well. So you can sort of get it coming and going a little bit.
Justin, it seems like a cure-all.
It is. It's like a brain tonic, but for your body. I don't know if she's going to appreciate my ad read. But you can head over to liontea.com and follow them at Lion Botanicals on Instagram. And we are, Molly and I and a friend of ours who's a chef and artist are doing a live cooking presentation tomorrow at 4:30. So you can definitely check that out.
Wow, I'm checking that out.
It's going to be ridiculous. The last one, our children screamed the entire time. And you can use code ComicBook20 for 20% off your first order.
And the 20 is because we're 20 years old, right?
Exactly, because that's how old my wife thinks I am. She's always buying the alcohol because she thinks I'm underage.
What's your favorite flavor?
Well, there are a bunch of flavors. I love the unsweetened one because it's just the dandelion root has this nice bitterness, and the unsweetened is like it gets you. So I really like that. But they have 6 flavors, 2 of which are unsweetened, no sugar at all. And check them out.
Which one do you mix with? Which one do you like mixing?
The strawberry.
Like, let's just say you had some vodka.
Yes.
And you're looking for something to mix it with.
Yeah, I'm going to get some tea and send it your way, the other gentleman of Comic Book Club, because you got to check this stuff out. The strawberry lavender is really nice to throw in a margarita, for instance.
Wow.
Or throw it in vodka, too. Why not?
Well, I, for one, am excited to both detox and tox with this.
Yes, exactly.
Here's to the tox.
You tox the tox, and you detox the detox.
All right. From tea leaves to another type of wood type substance. I don't know. That was a terrible segue. Yes. We're going to get into talking about the comics with our first guest here. I've just invited him into the stream, so hopefully he should pop up any second now. Very excited to chat with him because he is one of our favorite writers here on the show. We'll see if he comes in a moment. I'm vamping here a little bit, seeing what's going on. But just to set it up, it is Luen Yang. You're up.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest. I was nervous. I had all my fingers crossed. My computer, man, it just kind of sucks. But obviously, it's working right now.
Yeah, this whole streaming thing, a little bit dicey, but we're very excited to chat with you. Specifically about Superman Smashes the Klan, which is an incredible book. It's got art by Guri Hairu, who's two of my favorites. I was going to say one of my favorites, but two of my favorites. And letters by Janice Chiang. And we reviewed the first issue when it came out. I believe it's 4 oversized issues, right?
It was
three oversized issues. They were collected today. The collection was out this morning, even though most of comics is on pause. The book is out today, and it's beautiful, and it's fabulous, and it's heartfelt, and an incredible Superman story. I could do the pitch, but I'd rather you do the pitch. What is the general idea of the book?
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for reading it, and thank you for saying all those super nice things about it. I'm gonna tell my
love the book.
Yeah, the book is really great.
It'll give me out of something. Thank you. So I have it here. I have nothing to do with it, really. I kind of suck at cover design, so it was the DC design department that came up with this. I thought they did a great job. Even has spot gloss. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a project that I've been wanting to do for a really long time. So a while ago, I read in this book called Freakonomics about this storyline on the 1940s Superman radio show where Superman actually took on like the DC universe version of the Ku Klux Klan. And supposedly after that storyline aired, the actual real life KKK experienced this huge drop in membership. When I was a kid, my mom and my dad always used to tell me, like, why are you reading those comics? Those have nothing to do with the real world. And this was, I kind of wish I had known about this when I was a kid. But this was finally an example where I could point to, like, look, this geek stuff actually has a real world effect. You know, it can actually work for the positive in our actual world. So it always fascinated me about that. It also fascinated me because at the center of this story was actually a Chinese American family. And I've been reading Superman comics since I was a little kid. I just don't remember that many like Asian people in those books, you know. And to find out that there was this Asian family in a Superman story from the 1940s was just really mind-blowing to me.
So I got to ask, before we get into the plot or talk about the look of the book or anything like that, this is Superman Smashes the Klan. It's not like Superman smashes Cobra or Superman smashes whatever else. And it always feels like with comic books, there is this sub-in, whether it's Cobra or Hydra or I guess some other snake-themed villain. But here it is like straight up the Klan. Was there any pushback on that, even though it was based on this old serial?
Well, I mean, it's actually within the book. We decided to follow the original show, right? So in the original show, it actually was kind of a sub-in. They didn't call them the Ku Klux Klan. They called them in the show the Klan of the Fiery Cross. But everybody kind of knew what they were talking about. And I read this book about it. It's called Superman versus the KKK by a guy named Rick Bowers. It's awesome. It's all about this whole thing. And in that book, it talks about how DC was kind of worried that the KKK could sue them because they were actually they had copyrights and, you know, trademarks and all this kind of stuff in certain states. Certain states recognize them as like an actual legal entity. So they decided to use the sub-in. But I kind of feel like it was okay because the markers were so clear. They wore hoods, they burned giant wooden crosses, all that stuff was there. So there was no mistaking who they were talking about.
Yeah. I just wanted to jump in real quick and say that the story was like, sometimes when you have like an all ages story or a comic looks a certain way, you think, okay, this is just going to be kind of like fun. But the conversations that are had in this comic are really powerful, very moving, very touching. The more I read from this comic, the more impressed I was. The ending's unbelievable. I think, you know, even though Superman's a little bit more cartoonish, like they captured the voice in such a way. I was really, really impressed by this comic.
Well, thank you. I mean, from folks like you who like do all this stuff in the world of comics, it really does mean a lot. It means a lot to hear that.
Well, I especially think that we're all on lockdown here, and this comic, everyone's talking about how like it's such a bad time to be releasing a comic, but this feels so spot on to what we need. Sort of like Superman smashing something that feels real. Like I think it's good. Superman smashing the Klan is as good as Superman smashing COVID right now. So I think that's right where we want to be as far as reading a book.
Well, thanks. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I have to ask, have any of you were any of you fans of the original radio show? Like, did you find them on the internet or anything?
No, we do have somebody here in the comments, Pete's Punisher Slippers over on Crowdcast, who says the original radio serial is on YouTube. But I never checked it out. I didn't even know what it was other than we're fans of yours, fans of Guri Hairu. So I was like, great, on board. But how much did you change the script? How much did you tweak it and update it for 2020 or 2020?
Yeah, I think you know, as a geek, as somebody who's been reading comics since I was a little kid, I have a lot of nostalgia. You know what I mean? And the nostalgia kind of makes it so that I don't want to change certain things. So we decided to keep the bones of the series. So all the major characters are there, the major plot points are there. But there are some things that you just have to update for a modern audience, right? So one thing was it was 16 episodes, and sometimes it would have these really ridiculous 1940s style cliffhangers. So there's this one scene where the Klan has like Jimmy Olsen tied up, you know, and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna tar and feather you, Jimmy Olsen," and then they cut. And then in the beginning of the next episode, they're like, "Wait, who forgot the tar? Where's the tar? We got to go get the tar." And then they have to go out and like buy the tar. You can't do that in a modern comic.
One of the things that I think is most fascinating about the story is that it isn't just this Chinese American family that's being, you know, attacked by the Klan, and of course the other people who are not white and Aryan and whatever else who are being attacked by the Klan. You also at the same time parallel it with the story of Superman dealing with his own alien nature. Yeah. What was it like delving into both of those things at the same time and balancing them?
You know, I felt like a lot of that was already there. Like a lot of the alienness of Superman has been there from the very beginning. And Superman's been around so long. He's gone through all these different eras. So in some eras that has been more emphasized than in other eras, right? I kind of think of Superman as like a really deeply Jewish character. Maybe not even Jewish, maybe it's Jewish American. So I think a lot of the stuff about him, you know, that he has these two different identities, that he has to sneak around most of the time wearing these normal, like, quote unquote, civilian clothes. A lot of that was drawn from Jewish American experience in like the 1930s when he was created. So all that kind of stuff about like embracing who you actually are, I think it's just baked into who that character is.
This is getting back to something Pete said earlier about the all ages nature of the book. When you are dealing with these very serious subjects, like straight up racism, straight up the Klan, as you know, pushing the superheroics to aside for a moment, how do you format that for an all ages book? Do you feel like there's times when you're pushing it too far and you have to pull it back, or how do you hit that exact right line?
Yeah, there were. I mean, there's still things that I feel kind of weird about. You know, first is the original radio show was actually for kids. It was meant for like 8, 9, 10-year-olds. So we did look a lot at how they dealt with that. I felt like in a lot of ways they were very honest about what they were dealing with. Right? They didn't use any bad language or anything like that. But in terms of the actual fear that the Klan caused, they were super honest about that. So we tried to do the same thing. But there were other questions like, you know, like how far do we go with racial epithets? How much violence can we actually show on panel? Do we show guns or not? That was this huge debate between editors. Like, how do we show guns? So in the end, we did show a couple, but we tried to keep the guns to a minimum.
It's interesting that it was, especially comics back then, and the serial like were much more like these are for kids. Yet it dealt with like much more intense subjects, and now sort of neither of those things are true. Most comics don't touch on sort of intense political subjects, and comics are decidedly not for kids anymore in most people's minds. So I love the fact that you're sort of bringing it back to that, which is better to have that level of that variety in comic books. I think is important.
Yeah, I agree. I actually am really, proud to be a part of this DC Young Readers line. Have you read any of the other books in the line?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually, it's not exact. I guess it was more like YA, but we had Michael Morrissey on the show last week talking about the Grayson book, and we've read a couple of the other ones as well.
Okay, I haven't read that book yet.
What?
It looks awesome, though.
Yeah.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, what is it like working with the DC Young Readers line? Are there different directives because you've written mainstream DC titles at the same time?
Yeah, dude. It's really different. I have to say, it's really, really different. So, okay, first, can I ask, like, what do you guys think of like the New 52 era and Rebirth and all that kind of stuff?
It's good, mostly.
Wait, what'd you say, Pete?
It was good mostly. I mean, it had some stuff, but like overall, there was some great stuff. I mean, Aquaman came back hard for the New 52, which was great. There was a lot of Batwoman was unbelievable. Like Batman Detectives got really good. I mean, there was some sweet stuff going on. I mean, some stuff you're like, all right, but
I mean, I think DC's done a good job of pushing in better directions than they had in the years before that, I would say, with the newer stuff.
Yeah. Well, I came into DC during the end of the New 52 era, and nice. I agree. I think some of the New 52 stuff was great. I thought Wonder Woman was awesome. I thought Aquaman was amazing. That was like the best Aquaman had been in a really long time. But Superman was kind of weird. I felt like I came in. Man was like dating Wonder Woman, which I guess was fine, but it felt really weird.
He's playing around. He's trying new stuff out.
I think you're more of a traditional about that. and also it was my first time writing like monthly comics, so I had to get used to the rhythm of it. It took me a while. I felt like my first issues for DC, I don't know. It was a little rough. I felt like it was a little rough. I'm really glad that they were patient with me. But with the Young Readers line, I'm much more in my element. I feel more comfortable with a longer page count. I come from the world of graphic novels, and all of that is there. And then also, like the way they deal with continuity in the Young Readers line is really interesting. It feels more like the Joker movie, like where you're there. It's not totally bound into continuity, and they can kind of just pick and choose what they want to bring in.
That's nice. I would think that gives you a level of freedom that is nice.
Yeah, I think so. I've read this argument about Marvel versus DC that I kind of agree with. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this, but the writer of this article said that they felt like Marvel works best as like a unified universe where everything's kind of tied in, and DC works best when they let like a writer or an artist kind of take their iconic characters and do their own spin on it, where it's not totally tied to each other.
Which is weird because when you think about them in the comics, it's, for me, I think of the reverse, because like I would always hear about how DC has things planned out years and years in advance and how organized and meticulous they are about that kind of stuff. And Marvel's like, hey, we're going to try to make things fun. And, like, we're going to throw out a bunch of comics, see what happens, but it's like Marvel kind of matured in that way and then like kind of hit a popularity swing and made some smart decisions and really cashed in.
I mean, I agree with Gene though, like because all the DC heroes are such big characters. They're the gods. They're the big swingers. So like to let them stand alone and really operate like a mythology, like the Greek myths didn't have a continuity. They were just like screwing around mostly. And I think that works a lot with those same DC characters.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, just to agree with you guys, I'm always a big fan of whenever DC, and I know they don't necessarily turn out well in terms of sales necessarily, but when they push and they're like, here's a very specific writer and artist's take on this character, let's run with that. There was I think it was Constantine Riley Rosmo did the art on a while ago, which was amazing for a little while. Or this obviously did very well, but like Brian Oslo and Cliff Chiang on Wonder Woman was amazing.
Wonder Woman, yeah.
A very specific take And when it is something that like can go in its own direction, or what a lot of writers are often let to do for at least a little while on Batman, and like take that in a very specific artistic direction. As a reader, that's always refreshing and exciting to read. But I do understand when those things eventually swing back to, nope, he's just solving crimes now, fighting the Joker. Here we go.
Yeah.
What, now that you've tackled one serial, are you going to do another serial? Is that something you're even looking at, or do you feel like totally different type of story?
Yeah, I don't know. I am interested in World War II now, because I had to do a bunch of research in that era. 1946 is right after World War II ends. And I just think like so much after researching for this book, I realized so much of our actual real world now is kind of rooted in what happened after World War II. I also kind of think we're in the middle of something like that now. You know, like World War II was this big crisis. Afterwards, the world had this chance of rebuilding something new. We're in the middle of this giant crisis right now. I think, you know, 20, 30 years down the line, people are actually going to look at what happens immediately after this to figure out where the roots of their world came
And that's
from.
when you release Superman Smashes COVID.
Yeah.
Good. Good call.
I'm really hurry that up, please. I'd really like that to come
I need a guidebook. I need some tips.
Yeah.
Gene, thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations on the book. Everybody go pick it up. Well, don't go pick it up anywhere, but you know, pick it up online.
Order it online.
Order it.
Anything else you want to plug before we go?
Well, I do have 2 books coming out during the COVID era.
Yes.
I had this book come out in March.
Yeah.
It's called Dragon Hoops. My first nonfiction book. It's about a high school basketball team that I followed for a season. I proposed it as a 200 book, and it ended up being 400 pages long, because I just
Yes.
more to say than I wanted to say.
Excellent. So check out
Thank
Dragon
you,
Hoops.
Brad. Thank you so much for having me.
Check out Superman Smashes the Klan. Thank you for coming on, and stay safe out there. Thanks so much.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Good talking to you.
There you go, Gene Luen Yang.
Great guy.
Definitely pick up this book. It's great.
Oh, it's so good. It's really fun read.
Yeah.
I agree. And now we're going to try to bring our next guest into the feed here. He is, to give him a little bit of an intro, Joshua Yehl. He's a senior editor at IGN. And I am going to, I messed up the sound cues. Hold on, here we go. That means it's time for the Yeah, there we go. Josh,
Nice.
how are you doing?
Great. Hey guys, how's it going?
Great.
All right.
Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, we
I'll say
appreciate it.
I am a huge fan of the show, so I'm stoked to be on and talk to you guys.
Aw, we're a fan of yours, and it's always exciting to see you. First of all, before we get into the book that we're going to be talking about here on the stack, how's everything going for you? How are things going in the old entertainment journalism business on your end?
Terrible. I cover the entertainment industry, and the entertainment industry has ground to a halt, right? Everything's been postponed or delayed till like next year. But I mean, we're doing what we can to keep the lights on and stuff. IGN actually started up a watch from home theater, we call it, where we have on different actors, writers, directors, and celebrities and such to watch movies with us, and everyone can tune in at home.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
It's not an original idea. Literally every other site is doing that too. But that's kind of a fun thing that's been keeping us going.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about what we're going to talk about for the stack. If you're watching on video, you probably can kind of figure out that it's a Green Lantern thing based on the shirt he's wearing.
And
the number of rings that he has.
Yeah, that's a lot of rings, buddy.
I'm so glad you're rocking those, because to me that was really exciting to be able to go to the comic book store every Wednesday and get a different colored ring.
Yeah.
No, that's it. I didn't want to cut off Alex, but to jump right into it. But like, oh, it's okay to cut off Alex. Okay, cool.
You've watched the show before, right? That's the best part. And if you like cutting off Alex, you're gonna love cutting off Pete. Whew, what a dream!
I think I've learned to never do that.
Oh, you do.
Well, here, I'll introduce the book. So we're going to be talking about Blackest Night. Specifically, we read back the Blackest Night miniseries. I think you were saying you read through the whole thing, right, Josh? Like,
I was actually coming up with a list of the best Green Lantern comics on Comixology Unlimited because people are looking for something to do, and we notice a lot more interest in Comixology Unlimited. So that's actually on IGN.com if anyone wants to check it out.
There it is.
But as I was doing it, there was a bunch of Blackest Night books that were available. Not the actual main Blackest Night book, but a lot of the stuff around that event. But then after just getting like a little taste of that, I was like, I have to dive back in and go read the full event again. And I'm happy to say it holds up.
Yeah, so this was Blackest Night. It started with a 0 issue. Sorry about that, Pete. But it went through 8 full issues, all written by Jeff Johns, art by Ivan Rice. This was the end, pretty much the end of the whole saga that Jeff Johns had started since Green Lantern Rebirth, going through the Sinestro Corps War, going through all the color wars and everything, leading into this Blackest Night event where death takes over the DC universe. And yeah, I agree. It's funny. I remember we talked about almost every issue back in the day while it was coming out. And it was one of those things where it felt like you read the main series, but there's also Tales of the Blackest Night and all the tie-ins and everything. Yeah. And it became so overwhelming that I think about it as this enormous thing. It was kind of fascinating to just read the main miniseries and delve into that and focus on that. Because I do think for the most part, it works really well as a story, particularly for the beginning, in terms of being terrifying, in terms of building on all the things Jeff Johns built up. I thought it was great. Pete, Justin, what did you guys take away from it?
I felt the same way. Like it really felt like the Avengers Endgame of Green Lantern. Like it had this like everybody coming together. There were great twists and turns throughout. A lot of fun stuff, and it really felt like. I mean, Jeff Johns is such a meticulous writer, and he is so arch with all of his plans. And this felt like he was springing all of his traps at once in a good way. And just coming back and getting hit with the continuity of Batman being dead, Barry Allen having just returned, and all those other things that were going on at the time was like, oh yeah, that was such a crazy time in DC continuity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest Green Lantern fan, right? But how did this strike you?
Yeah, so not a fan of the Green Lantern, the space cops, if you will. But this was a fun event. You could tell.
It's fine. No, it's fine.
No. Hey,
look what you've done.
Go on.
Look what you've done. We invited him into our home.
Everybody, that's why there's so many colors of the rainbow. Everybody has their likes, But also they paired up with the Flash, so that's 2 of my least favorite working together. But I think that. It, like you're saying, it is such a fun, big event. There's a lot of cool things, a lot of relationship moments, a lot of big, like, wow stuff. But it was also fun to see them, like, playing with it, like seeing Lex Luthor get a ring, like seeing these things happen that really was like, oh, shit. I mean, it was a little confusing. I remember the first time I read it through, I was like, all right, why is this guy, everybody calling him the Black Hand or whatever, when it came out of Bruce Wayne's grave? Isn't that Bruce? And there were times where they're like Bruce, but then it wasn't Bruce. So I was a little confused about that part.
Just to describe that, so there's a villain called Black Hand, which is a classic Green Lantern villain. He's carrying Bruce Wayne's skull. So they're referring to Bruce Wayne's skull as Bruce.
So it's like you would say a Shakespearean moment where
it was in a last poor Yorick situation, which I encounter a lot as a classically trained actor. I have a lot of skulls.
You carry a skull with you, different skulls for different.
In the evening, I have my evening skull. I have my backyard skull. My go into the grocery store skull, because you can pontificate at any moment,
Yeah. So I thought it was it was just like a fun, big event. Yes, it had some of my least favorite characters, but I still felt like it had so much stuff going on. Like everybody kind of got involved, and plus they did a great job of doing the rings and like all the different stuff of like what's more powerful than love. Like what is these things that win out at the end of the day. So. I was impressed with it overall as a DC event, and that's saying something, even though it had a lot of my least favorite characters. And then that like floating cat that pulls me out every time.
Quick follow-up question. Did this crossover have any of your least favorite characters? I don't know if you've mentioned yet.
No, I don't think I mentioned that. I think
yeah. All right. Josh, what about you for revisiting this at this point? What struck you differently, if anything, about this crossover?
Well, I suppose being in a pandemic and reading something what is essentially like a zombie takeover, and like having to they don't know what these zombies, these Black Lanterns are all about, and have to learn the rules, just like we're learning the rules of like how to combat COVID and stuff. So it was oddly relevant to our current situation. But luckily the similarities stop there, and there's no zombies or Black Lanterns outside or anything that I've seen yet.
Yeah.
Still
but no,
early
really
going.
just reading it took me back. And yeah, we mentioned the rings earlier. Like just going to the comic book store became a mini event in its own as this was coming out, and just getting a new ring with each issue. And then I would go in my car and not even drive home and just sit and read the issue because I couldn't wait to see what was going to happen next in this story. Because like you had said before, it had been building up for so long. And yes, they were springing every trap. Just it was like payoff. Something huge happens in every other panel. And you really do have to be someone who was there for the whole ride to appreciate the whole thing of like starting with Green Lantern Rebirth and reading just sort of the whole thing through the Sinestro Corps War and the War of Light and everything. So it's just like payoff. And it all happened at such an interesting time in the DC universe. Like, as we mentioned before, Batman was dead, and that's a major plot point. They make a whole meal out of that when we get that Black Lantern Batman zombie, which is super awesome. That was a wallpaper for me for a while. But yeah, also Aquaman was dead. Martian Manhunter was dead. There were a ton of dead characters.
So that
tough. It gave there's so much fuel for the story of what it meant to the various characters to see those characters come back. One thing I have to mention was when I was reading Blackest Night, it starts with an intro from somebody who was on the crew of the Green Lantern movie, which had just gotten into production at the time, and they're like, "Oh man, this movie's gonna be so good!"
Wow.
Hey,
and now that's a zombie movie.
The ending's okay.
Yeah, Alex always goes to bat for the Green Lantern.
I'll go to bat for it.
I don't know what are you trying to win?
Parallax into the sun. It's fun.
The editor didn't even watch that movie.
Oh, wow, hot takes from
Pete. I will say there are parts of that movie I like, and I made a fan edit actually where I went back and edited it down to like a 30-minute really solid superhero movie. But you do lose a lot. It's only 30 minutes.
Good.
I'm into it.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch that. What were some moments that jump out to you for any of you? It's just things from the book that like really grabbed you in a particular way.
A couple of things just off the jump on that. I was surprised in rereading it that it's really a Batman Flash story. It's set, so much of it is set in the Batman world, and Flash is the protagonist. Adam and Mira are the Superman and Wonder Woman sort of throughout a lot of it. Which was cool.
Sorry, do you mean Green Lantern Flash story, not Batman Flash?
No, I mean because a lot of it takes place in Gotham City.
Okay.
You do you see Commissioner Gordon. Like the first few issues, it's so much still in Batman's death, which I because we're not in that continuity right now, it felt weird to be sort of wallowing in that for so long. And I feel like the intention was to really build to that moment when Batman barfs the rings that kill living people. Also, there's so much barfing in this book, truly nonstop. Even the end when everyone's winning, everyone's barfing still.
Yeah, classic Stand By Me type situation. I have a question about the Batman thing. So for those of you who haven't read it in a while, as we've been describing, Batman was killed in Grant Morrison's run. Obviously, he eventually came back. He was falling through time. Lots of things going on with him there that are too complicated to explain at this moment. But it kind of feels like when they get to that moment, they bring Batman, quote unquote, back, and he barfs the rings. And then later on, they back away from it and are like, there's even quotes around Bruce Wayne at one point, I think, when Necron says it or Black Hand says it. And to me, it feels like they legitimately thought Batman was dead. And then Grant Morrison was like, no, he's not dead. What are you talking about? No. Of course he comes back. Time. Did that strike anybody else that way? Or am I being like too conspiracy theory about it?
It definitely, I think you're right in some ways where they were definitely protecting that idea. because they say a couple times, like, Batman appears and then vanishes, and they say very specifically, that wasn't him, though. And then later, it's like, no, I think he's still alive, probably. And it's like, yes, clearly they wanted to protect that from the white light at the end that revives so many heroes.
Yeah, and there was that moment where they were like, Robin doesn't believe. He still thinks he's alive.
Yeah, I think a couple things were going on there. And one was that they're like, okay, this is a big DC Comics event. Green Lantern is going to headline it. There's going to be an issue where Green Lantern's not even in it, and really Flash, Mira, and Atom are going to be the headliners. And it's kind of risky. So they're like, how can we work Batman in a cool way?
Yeah.
So we'll use him as though he's dead, and we'll have that cool, awesome zombie Batman shot. Just to make sure we check that box. Okay, cool Batman moment in this DC event. Got it. But then at the end, of course, they had to do that kind of like quickly explain it away of like, oh, it's not really him.
Yeah.
Here, I'll throw out not to keep lumping on this. Oh yeah, Pete, go ahead.
I was just going to say they famously there was a meeting where they kind of went over like how things were going with that, and then someone was like, "I like this, but I need more barfing," and then they kind of really amped it up.
Yeah, classic
Dan Didio famously loves barf.
Yeah.
Again, not to like keep lumping on this book because mostly I think it's fabulous, and we've kind of bounced around this, but Ivan Rice's art is incredible throughout. Every single superhero thing, every single action sequence is absolutely amazing from the beginning through the end. My one little quibble that in my mind hurts the ending a little bit is I don't think Necron is a great villain. Black Hand is a great villain. The Black Lanterns are horrifying for the first 2/3, but essentially all Necron does is he stands there in the middle of Gotham City, yells die a couple of times, and then they beat him, and that's pretty much it. And to me, that's a little bit of a bummer.
Well, I do think Necron and Black Hand were more in the other books surrounding. They weren't as much sort of, their story wasn't told much in the actual Blackest Night standalone series, because they are just sort of like the scary thing lurking for most of this, I thought.
Yeah, I'll say this. You're right that there's not a lot of meat there. I mean, not just because he's only a skeleton. But there's a line in the book of as they're attacking him at all angles with all the colored cores coming together, shooting all their different laser rainbow beams at him, and it's not affecting him. And they say, well, why isn't he like stopping to like monologue or do anything? He's not even turning to face us. And, like, he doesn't care. Like, he is nothing. He is death. He is the space between atoms. He's darkness personified, and he just has one goal, and it's to destroy all life. And that's when he pulls out the entity, which actually for me was an awesome moment because Sinestro surprise takes the control of the White Lantern. And I'm not going to say I saw every twist coming, but I was not very surprised going through most of the event because so much had been set up, and I was obsessed with the mythology of what the different rings did. But that was surprising. I was like, oh my gosh, Sinestro's the White Lantern.
Yeah, I agree. That was a fun. Even in the reread, I was like, "Oh, right, yeah." He jumps in and snatches that shit.
This isn't going to end well.
Yeah, really well. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say I'm actually remember being super disappointed because if you just read the Blackest Night series, he becomes the White Lantern and tries to save the day. It doesn't work out, and almost immediately it gets ripped out of him, and he turns back to regular Sinestro. And I thought, oh man, I really wanted to savor that moment and see what he would do with that power. But I remembered if you go read the Green Lantern tie-in issue that happens right after that, it fills in that space. And actually Necron cuts him down the middle, Mortal Kombat style, with his scythe. And then it folds back together. And he's like, you can't kill me. I'm life incarnate. And so he did actually get his moment there.
He got a slice and half moment. Some other stuff I also really liked in this, in issue 3, the devastating death of Firestorm was just so upsetting, truly. And that was a Firestorm iteration that I don't think a lot of people are that's my favorite version. But that whole scene was just horrible. I love that they brought Dove in to be the avatar of the white light throughout.
That was cool.
That was very cool. And just the deputizing of all the different characters, that's just so fun. Pete mentioned Lex Luthor as the Larfleeze's Orange Lantern, Scarecrow, all the what a great classic Jeff Johns move to be like, oh yeah, what about these people?
Yeah,
super fun.
Yeah. Since you did read a bunch of the other issues, if somebody was to delve into Blackest Night, read the main miniseries, is there anything else they should definitely check out at this point?
If you just want more Blackest Night, I mean the Green Lantern series that takes place alongside it and interweaves with it is great. And there's also Green Lantern Corps, which is going on at the same time. But really, it's just whatever you want to do more, or whatever you want to know more about, you can go find it, because they really went all in on this event. Yeah, there's like the Tales of the Blackest Night, the Wonder Woman one, which I believe was Rucka and Scott at the time. Their issue where Wonder Woman becomes a Black Lantern and has to like fight Mira and stuff. That was spectacular. That is like really, really good. So if you have a hankering for more, definitely check that out. Also, I do want to mention real quick, I think the best moment in the whole story is actually this moment where it's issue 3. I mentioned it before. The Green Lantern's not even in it, and no other like marquee heroes are. It's the Flash, Adam, and Mira, and it's just up to them to just protect Earth while Hal Jordan goes to get all the other colored lanterns. And there's this beautiful moment where Flash says, hey, well, you're Wonder Woman and you're Superman now. And then he like zooms off. And then Mira turns to Adam and says, if I'm Wonder Woman and you're Superman, what's that make him? And the Adam just kind of turns like to the camera and he's like, the Flash.
Yeah, it was great.
It's like the nerdiest moment ever. And I love it.
Yeah. Throughout, I feel like there's just so many moments like that, particularly in the first couple of issues, which I know we're hitting the same points over and over, but just like Jeff and Ivan just nail every single one of those. Justin, what were you going to say?
I also thought it was interesting that whenever a hero came back as a Black Lantern, they were just like an instant asshole. They were like a heckler. They were like, oh, look, it's me. I'm a dick. Like, I thought they all had sort of the same voice. And it's just very funny that it was like, I'm going to make a joke about how I'm dead now. What a funny thing to put on the zombie versions of all the characters.
To that point, the thing that really worked for me rereading this again, particularly now that we've had a lot more zombies in mainstream universes, is it does feel much more personal to the characters in a different way than, say, Marvel Zombies or Deceased or anything like that, which are taking place in these other continuities that are both very good. But here you do get like those very specific continuity things of Gene Loring just digging into the Atom based on stuff, or not Plastic Man.
Elongated Man?
Elongated Man, thank you. Elongated Man really like getting at the Hawks in that first issue as well. Just all of that stuff works because it is based in this long history that they're building on. It's great. Josh, before we let you go, anything you want to plug? Any place people should check you out?
Where's that half an hour cut? Where can we go see that?
Yeah, put that up.
That's just on my hard drive. I don't know.
All right, we'll be there.
I don't know if it would be legally okay to post it online, but
there are no laws anymore. We're at full ship rules.
Yeah, full purge effect.
Anyone who wants to hear me ramble on more about not only Green Lantern, but Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Lady Gaga, Pokemon. You can follow me on Twitter at Joshua Yehl, last name spelled Y-E-H-L. It doesn't make sense to me either. Just go with it. I don't know.
That's the Yale. That's the Yale I graduated from, for sure.
I don't have anything to like plug or anything, but I will say, if tell you what, instead of coming and doing me a favor, go do someone else a favor during this trying times and say, "This is for Joshua Yehl, Y-E-H-L."
And shout out to Goose in the background.
Yes, yeah. He's tough to be a roommate, but he is cute.
Awesome.
Don't get me started on Groot over here, huh?
Yeah.
Ooh, love it.
Oh yeah,
right.
Groot's right at the edge.
This is great. We missed all of the important questions, is what's going on. Josh, thanks so much for coming on. It's so good seeing you. Thanks for the recommendation.
Yeah.
Thanks, Josh.
All right. Yeah, I just got him off like a horrible jerk.
Strong cutoffs.
Yeah, strong edits.
You're sort of the booth man now. What's your
Quintet.
booth man name?
What's my booth man name?
Because you're also the booth man now.
Oh, yeah. That's a great question. Well, whatever my name is, I think that Pete should spend a little time
sucking on a cheesesteak.
Oh my god! Wow!
Oh man, that's fun. We are officially a drive time radio show.
Yeah, way to be the morning DJ. Yeah, Sam's in the morning.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's a balmy 50 degrees out there right now. Don't go outside, though, because it's not safe. Hi, everybody. I'm Alex in the morning. Okay. And we actually have, to transition into a normal setup thing, we have a couple of other titles that we're going to talk about here on the stack because some new comics actually have started coming out from DC Comics. And next week, more comics are coming out. So who knows what's going to happen? But for right now, a bunch of new...
We might lose our minds.
Who knows?
Anyway, a bunch of DC books came out, so let's talk through them. First one to talk about Metal Men #6 from DC, story by Dan Didio and Shane Davis, and art by Shane Davis. This is focusing in on Platinum, one of the Metal Men, and her story as she figures out that or Tina for short. And she goes to visit the person who she was based on. That's basically what's happening here. What do you think about this book?
I mean, we were just lumping on last time we talked about this book, we were lumping on Dan Didio. Obviously, he's a big fan of barfing, as we learned in the our last segment. But I actually like this issue a lot. The confrontation between Platinum and the woman she was based on, I thought was really well done and a smart choice. The idea of the Metal Men finding a way to have become autonomous from their creator is a cool story.
Yeah, I think it was it's very creative, which is fun. The art's great. I really like Tina. It was kind of fun to see her confront herself in a way. And then the giant monster that kind of gurgles into the mountain cave. Big fan of that moment. So yeah, it had some great stuff.
I'm curious what's going to happen with this book, given everything that went on with Dan Didio behind the scenes. Probably not continuing for long. But there you go. Let's move on to another one. Justice League Odyssey #20, script by Dan Abnett and art by Cliff Richards. This is following some of the superheroes of the DC universe as they are lost across the universe, battling Darkseid for control of a place called the Ghost Sector. Here we get a little time travel stuff going on. How'd this one strike you?
I also like this. Jessica Cruz Green Lantern as the sort of the focal point of this series is really fun. I like her as a character. I like the way they dealt with the time travel here. Mm-hmm. And Darkseid has become. Maybe
Darkseid is.
Darkseid is.
Darkseid is.
Darkseid
I like the fact that we're kind of in a 3-panel grid right now, by the way.
We are.
We should figure out a way to make it into 9 just to like really even it. Yeah.
I think Tom King is writing at least our lives right now. It definitely feels that way.
I hope not. A lot of his shit is dark, man.
Yeah, a lot of life is.
I'm starting to grow my quarantine beard out. So yeah. Thanks, Tom.
What's the guy's name? The Stan Lee analog in that book? Slappy Silverstone or something like that.
Oh my gosh. I'm blanking out his name right now. But
but what I was saying was, I think Miracle Man, that series, Funky Flashman, great. Flasher Funky Man is what someone in the Slack is putting in. I like the way that Darkseid has become, maybe partially because of Miracle Man, this sort of presence we don't even need to see him doing much. He is just this like mind sickness, and I think that's used well here. I also like the way they use Green Lantern's broken ring to be a conduit for Darkseid's energy. Really smart stuff.
Yeah, I really like the opening. I thought it was a great job of really grabbing the reader with a great kind of like a start to the comic. Art was fantastic. The Darkseid is stuff was enjoyable. And then, but there was this weird like Cyborg kind of had this like kind of build up stuff where he was kind of like saying what was going on, but then at the end he pinged, and I didn't know what that was about. Like why he would say
he's a mother box.
He's a mother box.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That guy's a real mother box.
Yeah, I was like that means something, and I'm not getting that. So
now you get it. Lois
pings
Lane
of
number 10, written by Greg Rucka and art and cover by Mike Perkins. Tell you what, I missed an issue of this somewhere because this was a wild change of pace.
This was such a great issue.
So this has mostly been Lois Lane kind of investigating who's trying to kill her in the DC universe. I missed an issue, and now there seems to be Lois Lanes from parallel universes who are helping her out, or something like that. What's going on here?
Well, they're Jessica Midnights from parallel universes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really liked the way they sort of explained the multiverse, the series of double page spreads. I thought were so cool. And you don't really, so much multiversity is talked about in every comic book universe. And this was a really smart execution of it that made reference to a ton of DC universe stuff while also just being sort of fun and cool about it. And just this book in general is just so smart. Lois Lane has never been written as well as she's being written here by Greg Rucka. It's just so good.
I love this Lois Lane. This is a really kind of badass Lois Lane who's Superman's just this dude who hangs out and eats chips. I love this. She's like, what, Soups? I'm in the middle of stuff. I got stuff to do, fly away. It's really fun. I really was impressed with the art and the storytelling in this book. This is a really great run of a comic.
I agree.
Lois Lane is really badass.
The way they show her and Superman's relationship is so she's the busy one, and I think that's such a smart turnabout for where you'd expect it to be Superman being I gotta go, and I love the way they play it.
Yeah. I really like this too. I just highly recommend reading whatever happened last issue, because otherwise,
yeah, that's a good rec. Read issues before you pick it up. That way you can know what's going on. It's smart stuff.
Yes. Justice League number 44, written by Robert Venditti, art by Xermanico. This is following
Neptune's balls.
That's your catchphrase, right, Pete?
Dude, that was such a hilarious panel. Oh man, I love
Pete
that.
Already has Pete has a catchphrase. It's
Sucking on a cheesesteak.
Oh god. Don't laugh, Justin.
It gets
Don't
me.
laugh.
That gets me.
It's not funny.
That's good. That's fun. Neptune's
yeah.
balls on a cheesesteak.
Neptune's balls. Yeah, I think this
sucking on Neptune's balls. That's a catchphrase.
No, I think
the Justice League's fighting a bunch of giant monsters. That's basically what goes on this issue. What did you want to say, Pete?
Yeah, I just think it was really fun with the monsters. That one monster kind of looked like a bib for tuna. That was cool. But the ending was tough because I hate to see when my parents are fighting. So that part got a little weird at the end. But overall, this was a fun issue.
Agree. This is epic fantasy stuff. It's a fun palate cleanser from all of the very intense Justice League stuff from right before this. And especially right now, it feels like a light, fun read.
Speaking of light, fun reads, last one we're going to talk about Harley Quinn number 72, written by Sam Humphries and art by Abel. This is Harley Quinn, now in Los Angeles, no longer at Coney Island. And she is striking up a flirtation with none other than Booster Gold.
Oh,
yeah. This is weird because the animated series, which is so good, I feel like they're kind of copying a little bit because in the animated series, Ivy and Kite Man have this kind of same pairing that we're seeing in this. So that part was a little weird to me. But it's still enjoyable comic.
It's fun. I love the flirtation. I love the almost kiss moment near the end. And she's like, come on, I have a crush on Booster Gold of anybody. That's fun. This is all very fun.
The only weird thing about it is, and I love seeing them together, it's such a fun pairing that makes total sense at the same time, is that then you don't really have a straight man in the situation, which kind of forces Harley Quinn into the straight man position a little bit.
That's great.
Is it though?
No, she's not a straight man.
But it's fun.
Crazy man.
Yeah, but it's fun to see that change up. And surely you've been hung around with a couple where you're like, wow, both these people are crazy.
Oh
yeah. No, never.
Oh yeah.
No? Okay.
No idea
you are that couple.
I was gonna say, come hang out with me and my wife. And speaking of my wife, Lion Botanical Street. You gotta check it out. And the code is comicbook20 for 20% off of your order. LionTea.com, and check them out on Instagram at Lion Botanicals. Please order some tea. Be crazy. Live your dreams.
Live Moss, as they say in her tea company, right?
Yep, that's the catchphrase.
All right. And our catchphrase is it's time for our next section, which is my favorite section because you all make it up. It's your audience question.
Boy.
Yeah.
And for the audience questions, most of you have already figured this out. If you're chatting on YouTube, just drop us a question in the comments there, and I will keep an eye on them and read through them. If you're
Thanks,
on
Alex
Crowdcast,
Zalbooth, man.
I don't like it.
Zalbooth, man, I love it.
I don't like it. We got
What's
a couple
up,
of questions
Zalbooth,
here.
man?
Oh, Jesus. On
Hey,
Crowdcast
Zalbooth, man.
as well. And a reminder to those of you on YouTube, give us that thumbs up. Give us that like. We love that. We love likes. This is, I saw a question here. The question from CT Kook. No, I'm sorry. From Architectural Foam Paddles and Columns says, curious if 5G is still happening. 5G was the Dan Didio planned 5th generation event that was supposed to be coming up.
I thought
right
they were
about
asking
now.
us about like what's faster, 4G or 5G.
I
Well,
thought they were
answer that
like, is
question.
5G responsible for coronavirus? And we have to think
Oh.
about, is it still happening out there?
Yeah. Jet fuel can't melt coronavirus, man. Actually, it can. It's hot enough to do that. You only have to get up to like 200 degrees. Anyway, I don't think 5G is happening, or at least not in the same form.
Would you say
and-
what hoppies?
No, I would not say that.
No one would say that.
This was supposed to be that they were breaking DC into all 5 generations. Basically, they've rebooted it a couple of times. You have like the different generations of Robins. Superman would be, I think, the Superman from when he was first introduced. Batman would be the Batman from when he was first introduced, et cetera, et cetera. So you'd have all these different generations, and it would basically be like another realignment of the DC universe where all the continuity exists. I don't know if it's happening. That was Dan Didio's apparently pet project. There was a lot of pushback on it. I don't know the whole story, but there's been a lot of writing about it. The Beat in particular had some good writing about it, but it seems like that is probably done. And if anything, this pause on comics has probably put the final lid on it because now they actually have enough time to prepare something else. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Wow. That bummer
Yeah,
for
real bummer.
him.
Yes. All right, let's move over to a question here on Crowdcast. This is from Ben the Border Collie. I saw a rumor that something X-related may be introduced in Falcon the Winter Soldier TV show. How would you introduce the X-Men to the MCU? First thing I'd say to that before we get into the speculative part, there are so many rumors that are flying all over the place about shows and movies and everything else now that literally nothing is going on at any point. I would take absolutely everything with a huge grain of salt because like we were talking to Josh about earlier, a lot of the less savory, everybody is hurting for content. The less savory sites are putting out tons and tons of content that is not necessarily true. Some of it might turn out to be true, but basically like look at everything very skeptically until you hear it officially.
On the other side of that, I do think there's been a lot of time to think in these last couple months. I feel like, and a desire for big events to try to draw people back to movies or any sort of content that will bring in the X-Men, for instance. So maybe there is something coming. And if they were to do it, I mean, flowing through Wolverine makes a ton of sense.
Flowing through Wolverine,
like bringing.
Did you just turn into poetry or something? What happened to you?
Yes, a little bit. Bringing the X-Men into the MCU through Wolverine is what I'm saying.
Oh, you're saying like have Wolverine?
Yes.
Would you want to see Wolverine show up in like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or where would you want to see him pop up first?
I feel like because the way to do it and have it really have that impact is like a post-credit sequence in Doctor Strange or something like that, where he encounters, I mean, the multiversity is there. So like, it's easy to suddenly see a Wolverine pop up in the corner of a situation or something like that. Like everyone will go crazy. That's like the Nick Fury stuff from the first run of the MCU movies.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I just feel like, I want something to happen that makes sense for them to kind of cross over. It would just be kind of weird if Wolverine walked around and you were just like, well, wait, where the fuck has he been the whole time? You know,
Just walked around, like just sort of walked
just in the
through.
background.
Like nude.
Yeah.
You make it sound like he's
why
walking around in the.
Why
Like,
would
is
you
that the
say
camera?
nude?
Is that the camera? Where's the camera?
Because it makes it sound like they're at a gym and Wolverine's just like, oh, hey guys, just having a steam.
Yeah, they'll do a bigger deal than that. All right.
What if
next one-
Cyclops pop up and be like, I'm in the movies now?
I think someone else would stand up and go, boo.
You
we
mean
got a
you?
follow-up here from CT Kook over on YouTube. If you could age up any superhero for 5G, who would make the most interesting stories? So who would you want to see aged up? Nice old superhero.
I mean, this happened, I think, but when we were rereading Blackest Night, I was reminded of Bart Allen. And seeing, I was a big fan of Impulse. I think that's a fun version of the Flash to have back. We have so many very self-serious Flashes, I feel like, lately, and the most fun Flash is a Flash having fun.
Wow.
Whoa.
I guess
so you'd want to age down. You'd want to age Bart down, is what you're saying.
No, well, I would have him age up to be the Flash, and just maintain, because a lot of people, you don't have to be, you can be fun when you're older. You don't have to give it up.
Doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, it doesn't add up. I would say Kitty Pryde, just so Zalbin can stop being a creep around her.
So you would like to see 5G, the DC Comics event, import Kitty Pryde and then make her very old?
Yeah,
It's a bold choice, but I like it.
Yeah. They did
What
that
about
in
you,
Days
Alex?
of Future Past. Who would I want to see older? I mean, Batman, probably. I feel like old Batman from Batman Beyond would be a
We've
great
seen
thing to hit.
enough. Old
yeah,
Batman.
fucking get a real
Old
idea.
Batman. Good old Batman. No,
Get
they
a
could.
real idea. Vandal Savage, age him up. He's been young for too long.
The Spectre, nice old Spectre as well. All right, this is from Pete's Punisher Slippers. Comics have
Sweet
successfully adapted into TV, movies, and video games. What do you think of characters or concepts that circle back into comics for better or for worse? For example, the Batman 66 series of comics. Interesting. I got to tell you, the first thing that comes to mind, I don't think I have read any of the Marvel Gamerverse stuff. It's just nothing that really holds any interest for me. I think there's a place for it, but it's certainly something that I'm just.
You don't have to be a
doesn't appeal
dick about it. You can just say, I didn't.
No. I think it's bad, and I wish anybody who did it would die. Is that fair, Pete?
Wow. Well, it's kind of like what you sounded like you were saying a little bit. Your
That's
tone.
Definitely. That is not what it sounded like I was saying.
Wow.
You're like,
check it.
well, I don't play video games, and I don't think it has a place here, but
Is that what I sound like?
Yeah.
Is that what my voice sounds like?
It is. It's weird. You have
I
heard of it.
sound like that when I talk normally.
Yeah, and that's how your head
Yeah.
moves. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Very dramatic, very strong neck. The first thing that comes to mind for me is a rejuvenation of Into the Spider-Verse, getting that version of those characters back into Marvel continuity. I think would be fun. I feel like Miles has been a little bit pushed to the side lately, and I'd like to see more prominence for him.
I think that for me, good story is good story, and whether it comes from a video game or an animated show or wherever it comes from, just like great. If it's awesome, let's throw it in the mix and see how it does. But I wouldn't be like, oh, this came from a video game. Get this out of my comic book or something like that. 2 cents.
Thanks for your 2 cents, Pete.
Good.
Good
It
comment
felt like
from-
2 cents. It felt like about 2 pennies worth right there.
Yeah. I realized it was going to get over the 2 cents, and I was like, stop.
Question here from YouTube from Bandito740. Have you guys watched Justice League Dark Apocalypse War? I liked it. It was everything I love and hate about DC. Do you know if it's based on an actual comic storyline? I haven't watched it. Have you guys seen that one yet? I know a lot of people have been checking it out.
A lot of people have mentioned to me that I'll like it because it's very violent. And I look forward to checking it out. Right now, you can only buy it on Prime. You can't rent it. So I'm waiting for that to go down. And I'm trying to be good and give them money and not just pirate anything. So I'm waiting patiently.
You're a real
Hero.
American hero.
What a hero.
Trying, picking my battles.
Question here from Kevin. The Stars My Desta. What? That's over? Well, what are everyone's hosts and chat favorite comic or superhero tabletop games, or what games would you want to see get superhero tie-in versions? Interesting. I haven't really played many superhero tabletop games.
Yeah.
We did a podcast where we created our own superheroes a while back. That was pretty fun.
We did.
It wasn't that far back ago, but it was. We could go outside, so it seems like a long time ago.
Yes.
That was a fun little road trip. I picked up the boys and we all drove up to the Bronx and did a nice, recorded a D&D style podcast.
Yeah.
I have been interested. I haven't been able to track it down, but I have been interested in the Lock and Key card game that was released. I feel like that would be a fun one to play just because we're so into Lock and Key.
I'm a big fan of the comic Die, and the game in the back of that feels wildly difficult to understand, but it does seem very cool, and people seem to really like it. But it's a whole nother side of it that I haven't gotten into.
Yeah. So I mentioned the Gru card game. I've heard great things about that. I haven't played much tabletop stuff, but they seem like a good time, and I got free time now, so maybe I'll check it out.
Get into it, dude.
Yeah, maybe I should.
Get in the game. Here's a question from Eduardo Martinez. I've heard you guys mention in the stack at times that a book would read better in trade than single issues. I'm wondering if you ever experienced the opposite, a book that you read in trade that you wish you would have read as it was coming out monthly. Good question.
Great question. I much prefer reading all books in monthly. Waiting for a trade is something I don't like to do, and I feel like some books are clearly writing for the trade, but the best books are able to write for the monthly and then still have a satisfying trade at the end.
Yeah, to me, like what's nice is sometimes as time has gone by, like places have collected artwork that kind of goes with the graphic novel and can really make it flow better than they originally intended to, with some interviews and different like pieces that can really make it pop. But to me, like reading things, weekly or bi-weekly or whatever, and kind of having that in between, like, oh God, what's going to happen? Getting that new comic and opening up and kind of having this little story of a bigger story each kind of, I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm old or whatever, but I think it's fun, and the tension in between is nice to kind of have time to think about what's going to happen, where when you're kind of sit down and read it all in one chunk, you don't have that time to wait to kind of like really imagine or kind of like think about what's going on, so that's the way I prefer.
Who does a great job is Brian K. Vaughan, writing for both the single issue and the trade.
Yeah, I think that's I agree with the point you're making, Justin. The only thing that I'd say contrary to it is that often there are books that they're so quick to read. Like you read an issue and it's only about 5 to 10 minutes and then you're done. Even if I enjoy it, it's not that much time. So there is something to be said in my mind for the trade, just because it feels more like a more significant portion of time and therefore more weight when you're reading it all together.
You're a big trade guy. You're a trade guy. We've been betrayed. You've betrayed us.
Yeah. Pete betrayed you.
I would like to say though, that I know the trade of Court of Owls, there's that one thing where kind of like Batman is lost in a maze, and it's like in the trade, because it's such a collected piece, you kind of feel bad about the binding because you want to really open it up and look at the maze. So that part to me is kind of tough, because it's like in a single issue.
You tried to solve it with a red pen, right? You started drawing all over the issue. Yeah.
Talk about a specific answer to a question.
It's like the old highlights magazine. I bring my pen and I'm ready to kind of go through.
Yeah, I have the same problem with I like to read the IHOP placemats in single issues.
Oh, I definitely, you got to wait for the trade, Alex, on those.
Oh, the trade? Yeah, no, it's harder.
But I also would like to say, though, on the other end of that, reading Why the Last Man in a trade and like going through all the emotions at once and like kind of having that whole event hit you, super powerful, super amazing. So I don't know. I can kind of see both sides to the story.
Well, let me throw this at you, Pete. If you just stack up your monthly comics, it's basically a trade.
Wow.
Whoa. Mind blown.
How do you bind them?
Honey.
Of course.
Just a little bit of honey.
The
little bit of honey.
blueberry syrup. The blueberry syrup at IHOP is very good for binding the trade.
Oh, Alex is quarantining at IHOP, we should tell you. He brings in this bookcase.
That would have been so smart.
Oh my God, I'd be so happy if I was quarantining at IHOP.
Disgusting.
Trying that sweet butter pecan syrup.
Oh, man.
The fact that you know that, Alex, is a warning flag.
Well, at least I'm not spending all of my time
Sucking on a cheesesteak.
Oh, man, there's nothing better. It's a great way to spend time.
Gets me every time. We gotta just keep that has to happen every week.
No,
I love
no,
it.
it doesn't. No, it
You
does
catch
not.
me off guard every time, Alex, and I love it.
Question from Stray Bullet. What's one title you're excited to come back when the world reboots? Good question.
Great question. I mean,
Stray
honestly,
Bullet.
X-Men. I'm very excited to get back into the X-Men because that felt like such a dense story that really was building momentum, and the momentum was just absolutely shattered. So, like, I want to get back to that.
Pete?
I'm interested to see if X-Men lands this insane island humping fucking bullshit adventure. But I'm also just excited to get back to going to the comic book store again and kind of
because you don't actually read comics. You just go to the store and like posture around and stuff.
Yeah. Try to pick fights with people and stuff.
Poser.
Yeah.
Hey,
You're a poser.
you got the trade for collection for X-Men, the Island Fucking Adventure. Is that it yet?
Is that collected yet?
I gotta see if they're gonna land this thing. The island fucking. Are they gonna finish? Tell me, are they gonna finish? I'm a comic book fan. Just tell. I don't even need to see the comic. Just tell me.
I want to just
walk me through it.
Mike a shout out in the comments. Yo, Jimbo, I agree. Yes.
Another shout out to the comments. Eduardo Martinez, Undiscovered Country. Also, yes, excited to get back into that equally dense and insane world.
Yeah. All right. Another one from Beer Cat PhD. If you could choose any comic book author to write your biography, who would you pick? Oh, man.
Great question. Biography.
That's tough. It's tough. Wow. This is kind of blowing my mind.
Garth Ennis would be great for Pete, obviously. Should really explore the dark underpinnings.
But also, like, Greg Pak kind of knows us and would bring such a nice humor and kind of like resonance to it.
He would write the shit out of your beard. He would really write your beard well.
It depends on how true you want it to be, because if it's like Garth Ennis, I think he would bring a lot of research, but he'd kind of amp you up a little bit, Pete.
Yeah.
Justin, you probably want James Robinson, right?
Well, let me throw this out. He feels like he's stumbled a bit in the last couple of years as a comic book writer. Maybe late 90s James Robinson. I'm not giving up on him. I still read his stuff, but by his own admission, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing as much. Yeah. I think he's had a rough go of it in a lot, especially if you read the back matter to the omnibuses, you'll learn a lot about his backstory. I mean, Scott Snyder would write an epic biography with epic soundtrack.
What about like I think Fred Van Lente? I'd like that. You wrote me. I'd be happy about that. I think he'd do a fun job.
Yeah, I mean,
are you announcing this project right now, Alex?
Yeah,
I mean, the comic book history of me. I don't know if Ryan Dunleavy and Fred Van Lente want to do it. I'm up for it. I am an open book, literally.
I gotta feel like we'll be characters in this book.
Yeah, I think so. It's a chapter, maybe.
Yeah, just small.
All right, we got one from Joe Crack with comments about the Batman being raw and not sanitized. What are your thoughts on Hollywood's desire to put Batman in movies mostly unsuited for children when many people fell in love with the character as a child? Well, if they don't fucking like the Batman, they can fucking deal with it.
Wow.
They got to learn fucking sometimes that the Batman is hardcore. You know,
unpopular opinion. I think the problem with the Batman movies so much is they're just afraid of looking foolish. They're afraid of it being. They don't want to take a risk. It's like we have to be edgy. We have to be serious, and so it's this arms race where it just keeps escalating toward that. Because I agree, like we've talked about this so much. I feel like in quarantine, and maybe that's because we just like long for our childhood. But like Batman the animated series feels like the Batman we connect with the most. And if they could somehow translate that to film, I think everyone would love that. Yeah. And then that sort of tracks more with like a Tony Stark style Batman, which you would think would be great.
I mean, I read those quotes and there was like the raw and unsanitized. And I think also, what's his name? Andy Serkis was like, yeah, it's really gritty and realistic. Like how he's still in a bat suit. I mean, how much grittier and more realistic could it possibly be? You know?
Yeah, because Ben Affleck's take was pretty dark.
Well, that was dark, but that wasn't very realistic. I'm saying like the Nolan movies, Dark Knight Rises certainly got very comic booky, which I know we've argued about this, but like that's the reason that I like Dark Knight Rises the best of that trilogy is it feels like a 90s Batman crossover. I don't care. Bad point to introduce this argument.
Suck it on a cheesesteak.
Oh man, I even like it when Pete does it live. This is my Achilles heel. This is my kryptonite.
But the Nolan movies were supposed to be like, this is a realistic, gritty Batman. This is what Batman would be like in the real world, you know, even if they went a little over the top sometimes.
No, when that football field caves in behind that dude running with the ball, I was like, now that's realism. Yeah, that's like August Strindberg or
yes. Well, that's what I'm saying is like, how much more ground level can you make it than the Nolan movies? Is it going to be like him being like, my parents were murdered, and somebody else comes in and like, I hear your parents were murdered, and then it's just back and forth for an hour and a half, and he's like,
that's what I'm saying. I think the grittiness becomes unrealistic. Like, I think we need to pull back on, if we want realistic Batman, I think we need to pull back on the grittiness and have it be a person and not this just like force of vengeance that we have to like tolerate for 140 minutes.
Yeah. 130 minutes though were pretty good, and then that last 10 minutes is just
too gritty. Well, that's when Gritty the mascot showed up, and that's too gritty.
Yeah. Here's something from Jay Sinison. This is about our guest earlier, Gene Luen Yang. Superman Smashes the Klan was very Fleischer, Kirk Allen, George Reeves influence. It's cool to see because so much of Superman changed after the Christopher Reeve. That flick was so awesome. It very quickly became a big part of the look and feel of the comics. What pre-78 aspects of Superman do you think have been lost?
Wow. Ooh, nice.
I feel like you're trying to stump us this week, you guys.
Wait, pre-78 comic book, or are we talking about like the movies?
Yeah. Mike Beneke says Red Kryptonite. I don't know if that's pre-78 because definitely like there was stuff in the 80s and whatnot with all the colored kryptonites, but that was fun.
Yeah.
Well, and this is something that they tried to bring back, I think, with New 52, was Superman as more of a guy who lived in an apartment trying to fight the fight for the underserved or of poor people. And I think that was something from the early Superman mythology that I really liked and tracks so much with Superman. It's just because of the continuity now. He has to be so busy solving everything. But Superman just being this like bare-knuckled guy who's like trying to protect people in his neighborhood, I think is really cool.
Yeah, I kind of getting back a little bit to the old school of Superman and just him kind of being a nice a person, a very kind of like old school nice person, I think would be an interesting kind of really take, especially now, just to kind of like to see how different that would look or feel or whatever might be interesting.
Cool. Good question. Couple more here. We got one from Mike Beneke. What have you missed most about New Comic Book Day? I think Pete, you've said a couple of times, just go into the store.
Yeah, seeing the people you see, and the interactions you have.
What people do you see? What do you do? What is this, a day-long event for you?
Dude, when you walk into the comic book shop, it's your people, you know, you got to say what up to the people you always see, you know, and
they start playing the Cheers music when you walk into Midtown, right, Pete?
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Wow. I've been in there when you've walked in, Pete, and I don't remember that much fanfare.
You probably were busy looking at your phone instead of paying attention to the actual people in front of you.
Wow. You're trying to, I'm not a man of the people?
That's right. That's what I just said out loud.
Wow. Well,
I gotta say, this is kind of terrible, but we were talking about this when we taped this week's Stack podcast a little bit. I've been liking the opportunity to go back and read stuff again, like sometimes just for pleasure. You know, books.
Bold take, Alex. You don't like New Comic Book Day. You like Old Comic Book Month.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like when I was younger, I had my books and I'd read my books and I'd read all the monthly books that I get through delivery. And then I'd go back and I'd read literally everything all over again. And even into my 20s, there were points where I'm like, I got nothing to do. I'll do that. Read through all of my comics again.
Sounds like an exciting childhood.
It sounds like you miss being young. It sounds like you miss not having responsibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is a slightly related thing, but I miss my muscles not hurting all the time.
I miss my young bones.
Yeah.
That's fun. I mean, I miss the ongoing being able to pick up a comic and be like opening it and being like, oh, here's where we were, here's where we're going, here's what the next thing, like just the feel of the dipping into the stream of comic book continuity. And now we just don't have that. It's all dried up and we just have to go back to Alex's favorite thing, the dusty old books from our childhood.
But also just being in the know, like knowing things before people, like reading the comic book, seeing the first appearance of somebody or the start of an idea or something like that. That is just like
so you're
just
worried,
every Wednesday.
You're worried all the normies are going to catch up to us at this point. That's what you're
exactly. Yeah. What if they learn as much as we know? They'll replace.
What are we worth then? Yeah. All right. Question here from, hold on. I'm going to get it. From Palmer Eldritch. How do you feel about the Sweet Tooth TV show news? Who would you cast as the main characters? What would you like to see? What would you change? So this came out actually right before we started doing the show here. But Robert Downey Jr. is producing a Sweet Tooth TV show for Netflix. There are 8 one-hour episodes in the first season. Not Josh Brolin, but James Brolin is going to be the narrator. Will Forte is in it.
Yeah,
Tooth, but
checks
as
out.
one of the other characters.
That's great.
And a bunch of young kids are in it as well, of course, as all of the animal kids. The thing that gave me a little bit of pause, and I don't have the description open right now, is that they described it as a all ages adventure where an animal kid named Gus tries to find his origins. And I was like, there's some fucked up shit that happens.
Really fucked up
Sweet
shit,
Tooth all the time.
But all ages, I feel like, is a little more fucked up than it used to be.
Really?
Don't you
I
think?
don't know if you've seen Bambi, but mom dies early in that, bro.
Yeah, it's fucked
That's
up.
true.
Brutal.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find the description while we're talking about it. Like, I understand what you're saying, and as long as there's some darkness, I feel like it'll be okay.
Because it's more of a dreadful dystopia. It's not like a bunch of violence happens all the time.
No, it is like animal children eating animal children, people getting shot through the head, killed all the time. The description is Sweet Tooth is the broad appeal, family friendly storybook adventure of Gus.
That does not sound like the comic book.
Yeah.
No. So I guess we'll see. I mean, I'm excited for it. And, Jeff Lemire, get that cheddar or whatever. Good for you.
Get that
don't
cheddar.
get mad at him. He's getting that cheddar.
No,
man.
I'm not. I'm very happy.
Well,
Alex,
get that bag.
why are you mad at Jeff Lemire? He's just trying to get that cheddar
I'm
cheese.
so angry. I hope he
He's trying to
gets
get that bag.
That guy likes that cheese. He's chasing the bag of cheese that Pete keeps talking about.
All right.
Just trying to hold
Here's a
that back.
question from
Wait, one last thing.
John-
We didn't say who our casting was. Timothy Chalamet.
sure.
Timothy
Oh,
Chalamet.
nice, dude.
Great. That'd be great.
Nice.
He's definitely young enough to play.
I think he actually has little deer horns,
Yeah, he does.
so he's fine.
Naturally.
He's like an innocent little doe, that guy.
This is from Jive495. Which comic book character does Pete think would make the best cheesesteak?
Wow.
Would prepare the best cheesesteak?
Yeah, make the best cheese.
Make
Not
the
like, which comic book character would be killed and cooked into the best cheesesteak?
Well, that's 2 different questions. Make up your mind.
I bet you could answer both of them.
Yeah.
Let's see. Who would make the best? No, Deadpool. He makes chimichangas. I don't know if he has the attention span for the cheesesteak.
I hate to tell you, Pete, a chimichanga is knocking on the door of a cheesesteak, my friend.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Huh. I'm going to go with no.
Sucking on a cheesesteak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sucking on a cheesesteak.
I'm trying to think of like who have we seen that cooks? Like who have we even seen like work a barbecue? I know there was like a couple, like one of those baseball episodes where like, you know, Captain America's working a grill. I mean, that would be kind of cool to have Captain America make you a cheesesteak.
How you got there was so amazing.
You really walked yourself into that in a lovely way.
Thanks.
That was like a 10-year-old boy being like, well, Captain America probably makes a good cheesesteak. He's my hero.
I don't know. That would be nice, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Foggy Nelson does a lot of late nights ordering food, working on law stuff. I bet he knows a good cheesesteak place, and I bet he can replicate
probably
it.
does.
Yeah.
Probably
And
knows good. I don't know.
Before you forget about it, which character would be best made into a cheesesteak?
Speedball.
Speedball. Very lanky.
No follow-up questions.
Nope. Yeah, just because fuck Justin.
Great. I think
Bad cow. That's a good one, Mike.
Let's talk about this before we move on. This is on the Sweet Tooth Bent. CT Kook says over on YouTube, I don't know. They ruined the lock and key by making it family friendly. This is something that we talked about a little bit on a podcast. I disagree with this, but I think I understand where CT Kook is coming from.
Yeah.
Because certainly what I feel like they did with Lock and Key was they positioned it to give it the best chance to succeed on Netflix.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Versus like, yes, they took out some of the horror, but I like what they did. I like the changes. And that's part of the reason I actually feel like nervous about Sweet Tooth, but a little better at it, because having a hardcore violent animal kids show is probably not going to connect in the same way as a family friendly show that turns it into sort of a dark fable, you know?
Well, and let me, because like I take the point that like if you're a big Lock and Key fan and you miss the horror elements, and we've talked about that a lot in the podcast, that's something you can definitely miss. But what I like that they did with Lock and Key is they really translated it. They really took those ideas and spun them in a way that worked for that type of story. And as long as they take the same care in Sweet Tooth and really take those tragic dystopian moments and find a way to retell them in a way where they still have impact, I think it works.
Yeah, I hear what the point is, though. It's like when we read Lock and Key, there were panels that made us jump. So there was a little less of that tension, that horror, holy shit kind of stuff in the book, which cut a little bit of its edge. But I think the creativity and, like you said, Justin, the storytelling kind of prevailed, and it still kind of held a lot of what made a Lock and Key great.
I would say, though, on the same bent, that another family-friendly thing that makes you jump is Criss Cross.
Oh my god,
that's true.
Yeah.
I wish they really brought a lot of the horror elements of Criss Cross. The way the pants were really constrictively.
Have you seen
backwards.
House Party 2? Fucking terrifying, man.
Are you talking about the pajama jammy jam?
Oh yeah,
of course. Last question here from Stray Bullet. The Snyder Cut is coming to HBO Max. Why?
Great question.
Great question. I don't think it's coming to HBO Max because I don't think it exists. So there you go.
Interesting. If it were to come, the reason it would come is because every streaming network is desperate to draw people to it, and they will do anything to try to take Netflix just reconquered streaming because of the coronavirus lockdown. And now all these other services that are just emerging have to somehow claw their way into the picture. So HBO Max, I mean, Quibi, not to get too deep into all this business stuff, but the Quibi interview in the New York Times this past weekend was crazy and sad. Everyone is trying to find their spot, and it's just a much harder time than they thought it was going to be.
Well, let me ask you guys something. Would you watch the Snyder Cut?
I don't. Sure. I mean, I wouldn't not watch it, but I would not be like, I gotta see this. I don't. Right. I don't know.
Yeah, he hurt me the first time around. I'm not going to go back for more.
I mean, I'd be curious just so we could talk about it, honestly. Like, that's the main reason that I'd watch it. And also so that people could stop talking about it coming out. That would be kind of nice. To Justin's point, and not to get like too in the weeds here about business stuff or anything, but
weed it up.
For my day job, we're starting to prep our coverage for HBO Max, and they had a pretty light launch slate anyway. They're coming out on May 27th, but their big thing was the Friends reunion special, which is not happening now. So they basically have they have a very robust back library of Warner Brothers stuff and other channel stuff and everything else that's coming out, but they don't really have, they have hundreds of shows and movies in development, and none of them can shoot right now.
Yeah.
So to your point, I feel like I don't think the Snyder Cut exists, but if they are going to launch it, now is definitely the time where they'd be like, here's an unfinished director's cut with some animatics that we threw in there to make it make some sort of sense. Enjoy. Please subscribe to our service.
I got really excited because I thought you were going to say Animaniacs. Like, that would fucking blow my mind.
Animaniacs is coming back.
Yeah,
they're coming back to Hulu, weirdly.
Oh, I love that show.
It's a good show.
Release the Snyder Cut of Animaniacs, and then I'm there.
Excellent. All right.
Water
and that
goes
is it
down
for your
the
audience questions.
Yeah. That was Tiny Toons, Pete.
Oh, my bad.
You don't even know what you're talking about, man.
That's good catch.
Yo, I got you, dude.
Kids WB, dude. All right. Time to move on to our next section, which is trivia. And for that, we're going to turn it over to Pete LePage.
Stray bullet. First hand up, guys. The stray bullet.
Bullet?
Yep.
Wow. He did it. That was super quick. All right. Here we go. Hold on. Oh, my gosh. So much chatting going on. Hold on. This is going to take a second here.
That's all right. We have plenty of time. So, Pete, now in your development of trivia this week, what was going through your head? Like, when you first were like, what should I do for
I think it will be revealed as it is towards the end. You know, sometimes it's really about how.
Yeah!
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Wow.
What's up, man? How are you?
Awesome. How's it going?
Great to see you, man.
Great.
Yeah,
good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for coming on for trivia. I'm going to turn over to Mr. Pete now. So Pete,
I brought props. Is that cool? I brought props.
Yes.
Sure.
My wife was here a few minutes ago, and she walked over. She goes, "What are those?" And it says for trivia. And she just went, "Oh, okay," and walked away. So let's go.
Wait, are you going to show them each question?
Nice.
How are you going to work this?
Okay. This is excellent.
I'm very excited about this.
I think we have a new part of trivia, by the way.
Take it away, Pete.
All right. So today's trivia is on topical comic news.
Yes, my favorite
Question
topic.
number 1. Please listen to all 3 possible answers before you give your choice. Today's question number 1: Who is writing the new Batman 3 Jokers comic that is coming out in August? Is it A, Jeff Johns, B, John George, or is it C, John Irving? So it's either A, Jeff Johns, or it is B, John George, which I heard not that smart of it. Hey, nice.
Yes.
All right, great. Question number 2.
I wish it was John George.
Yeah, I think we all do.
In the upcoming The Joker 80th anniversary 100-page super spectacular, one of the writers said, which character will steal the show? Is it A, Batmite, B, Punchline, or is it C, Glenn Close? So it's either A, Batmite, which I don't know, or it could be B, Punchline. B is correct.
Great stuff.
Nice. Killing it. Pre-made cards. All right, here we go. Last one. Speaking of Punchline, who will have a face-off with Punchline in her own comic coming out with issue number 75? Is it A, Harley Quinn, B, Catwoman, or is it C, Jessica Tandy? So it's either A, Harley Quinn, which makes the most sense, or you could be completely wrong. A is correct. I
Such
love how
great
you
drama.
Hold it up like kind of creepily, a little
Very
aside,
dramatic.
like, I'm not sure.
I assume you don't have a C card, right? Because you know that would never be necessary. Wow.
Wow.
Always prepared.
Yeah, always be prepared.
Nice.
Wait,
Did
do
you
you have
guys
a
do
guess?
Did you guys do the what are we drinking part yet?
We
Oh
did.
no, we didn't actually. Brett, what are you drinking? Are you drinking something over there?
Paradise Park.
Ooh, is that local? Is that
Yeah, it's Urban South, New Orleans. Mhm.
Nice.
Nice.
I got a here we go. 21st Amendment Brewery.
Yeah.
Love that
a
beer.
Blood Orange IPA.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
That's
we
a
go.
child behind me. I don't know if you heard.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
definitely heard.
see him.
Yeah.
He
I'm,
looks like he's having fun.
Yeah, look
I'm-
at there he is, right there.
I'm having the last of my White Claw, so I'm excited that
what will
this
you
is
do
over.
next?
Yeah.
And I was drinking some Gruner Veltliner.
Whoa.
Very nice.
all right.
choice.
Before we let you go, plug your restaurant down in New
Yeah, yeah.
Orleans.
Koshan Restaurant down in New Orleans. I am the chef de cuisine. I'm also the
yeah.
official CBC chef, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, that's
Of
right.
course.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
I went down there to eat, and man, had a great meal, great
I can't-
time. I was shooting in New Orleans. I was shooting all night, every night for like 3 days, and I snuck in for a lunch and then took a very long nap. It was amazing.
He took that like a champ because like you had like 3 hours of sleep and then rolled in, honestly looking like you had 3 hours of sleep.
Thank you. I
And,
take that.
like, took down quite a bit of food. You and Pigeon took down a lot of food.
Yes.
Pigeon from Slack. Yes.
From Slack. Yes, it was.
We haven't
it was,
had a good Slack food war in a while either.
Oh,
I know we need a new topic.
Shout out.
I mean, we all remember the bacon wars from like 2019.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I won the
Bacon
bacon
wars.
war.
I
I'm pretty
lost
sure
an
I won
arm.
that.
Yeah, we lost a lot of good people out there, but I
I
think
tell you what,
slightly undercooked bacon won as always.
as soon as I'm allowed out of my bunker, I'm coming to New Orleans, man. I'm sick of
Yeah.
this shit. I have to hear
Fuck
about
yeah.
how great it was from Justin all the fucking
I
time.
talk
drives
about it
me
a
nuts.
lot. It truly
Yeah.
was an epic meal.
Yeah.
Great beer. Had some local beer at noon.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's
Thank you.
always a pleasure. Shoot us an email at comicbookclublive@gmail.com. We're going to send you a $25 gift card from Midtown Comics.
Yep, that's dope.
and
Thank you guys.
So good seeing you.
So
Bye,
great
Yeah,
to
it's
see you,
great
man.
seeing you.
All right. What?
It was world according to Garp. Kevin got it right. Just wanted to kind of.
Oh, okay. Do you want to explain what that was, or you just want to say world according to Garp?
Yeah, I'll
Just
just
say
go-
random stuff.
Yeah, just random stuff. I think it works.
Great. Your third answers equal a Robin Williams movie. In this case, it was world according to Garp.
Yep, and then we need no more explanation besides that. Question from Pete's Punisher Slippers. Whatever happened to Nat Towson? And Nat Towson is someone that we don't talk about on this podcast because
he's not really a part of it or anything.
he's not really a
like that.
part of it. So I don't know what all these questions are. He definitely texted me and was like, "Why you guys talk about me a lot?" And so we're definitely not talking about him this week.
Right.
Yeah, good call.
Who are we not talking about again?
I don't even remember the name of the very punchable man named Nat Towson.
Yeah, that's
Before we
bullshit,
wrap
man.
up
I
here-
had that guy straight punched in the face.
Before we wrap
Stomach.
up here, you want to plug that tea again, Justin?
You know I do. Check out Lion Dandelion Tea. It's refreshing and restorative, a detox for your liver, and a digestive aid. It's a great debloater, and going slightly off script, I think we're all feeling a little bloated, right? It both cures a quarantine hangover and can be a great mixer for your quarantine beverage of choice. Head over to liontea.com or follow them at Lion Botanicals on Insta. I'll be doing a
And
Instagram
it's
live.
lion like the cat, not like you're fucking making shit up.
Yes, that's Lion like the Lion King, not like Pete LePage, the Lion King.
Hey now.
Tomorrow at 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, my wife and I and a artist chef, a friend of ours named Jay Battle, will be doing a live cooking thing where we are cooking some dandelion greens. And if you want 20% off an order of Lion Tea, you can use the code ComicBook20, which definitely works now.
All right, there we go. Couple of other things to plug before we go. Next week on the show, we're going to have 2 more amazing guests. We're going to have Nate Lingley from Ashcan Press, as well as Susanna Polo from Polygon is going to be here for our stack section to talk about The Long Halloween.
Yes, very excited about that.
Very exciting. If you want to support us on Patreon and argue about bacon and bagels and other things like that, patreon.com/Comic Book Club. Also, we do a couple of other podcasts right now. The 2 that are running are KDP Cast, our KDP podcast is about to wrap up for the season. Also, Star Guys, our Star Girl podcast, just getting started. The show kicks off next week. Not only are we going to have recap podcasts, we're also going to be doing bonus podcasts after the CW airing of the show. So that should be very exciting there. If you want to subscribe to this podcast, iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice. Socially, connect with us at Comic Book Live on Twitter. We'll be putting up a poll for our next Stack podcast, which this week is V for Vendetta. So if you want to check that out, you can check that out in the Stack feed and also the Comic Book Club feed. And we had so much fun talking about it.
Love doing it. Thank you so much, guys.
ComicBookClubLive.com for this podcast and many more. We will see you next week, next Tuesday, 7 p.m. live on Crowdcast, live on YouTube. You're all awesome.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
Sucking on a cheesesteak.
Oh, come on, guys. Come on.
There it is.